Hello, peepsters. Welcome to Salem. Going to be covering the Days of Our Lives recap, update, and what all is popped in Salem this week. And it has been a most productive week in the small town of Salem. Okay, this is for Monday, July the 3rd to Friday, July the 7th. 7-7. And that is today. I hope everybody had a great 4th of July. It's my oldest son was born on the 4th of July, so I actually did a video when they were over here the day before, popping off fireworks. It was a unending firework display over here. Made me kind of nervous. Okay, so what's happened? So, excuse me. What happened Friday? That little incident at the restaurant, the bistro. We have a restaurant here where I live called the Bristol, and I keep wanting to say that it's the bistro or Meester, whatever the name of that restaurant is, where they're having the engagement party for Stefan and Gabby. Of course, that whole little thing that we seen Friday, where Harris shows up with a gun, we see that all in a rerun here at the beginning on Monday. There's several things going on. Okay, so Leo, being the nosy little man that he is, he has, in his quest to find dirt on Dimitri to keep him from his BFF, Gwenny, in his search, he runs upon Kristen and EJ tied up by their sister Megan in the cellar there. So, like I said, I made a video about that day. There was so much going on. So he says, OMG, WTF. You know, like he's some little girl, man. He just cracks me up. But anyway, Megan has already given them some CRS 17 or whatever the little code is for that serum that makes them temporarily lose their memories. And she's already been in there and given that to them, and that was courtesy of Rolf. It will be. So they've already got that. They're starting to lose their memory as they talk to Leo, and they're like, our crazy sister Megan tied us up down here. And he's like, I knew she was up to no good. And he's like, why? Why would she tie you up down here? And then they're like, I don't remember. So, you know, they can remember more than most people that have been given that serum. There's a little side note for you. So he talked to them for quite a while before he even let them loose. Meanwhile, upstairs, Eric came over to the mansion for something. What did he come over for? I don't remember. That was Monday. So, he came over for something and was talking to Nicole. And while he was there, she started to have cramps. So, he takes her to the hospital. And it was just some ligament something. Baby's fine. Everything's fine. He brings her back home. And they share a what? A little kissy poo. Yes, they do. You know, I mean, we have to sit here and wonder. Everybody's probably got the same idea that, you know, Nicole is carrying Eric's baby. And that's what we all think. And I personally, I hope that she is not. Because I am wanting Sloan to get her a family. I feel so bad for this girl. You know, her family's dead. Her brother's going away for life. Plus has humiliated her. You know, he's got problems, and I do not like Colin. Let's just put that out there. So, I wanted Eric and Sloan to have a child, and they still may have a child. He may have a child with her. You know, he's gone on these years without being a dad, and all of a sudden he's going to be the dad of two. That would be cool for Eric. Of course, we don't have to worry about who's going to have kids because it's most of the time I'm watching the show and I forget these people have kids, except for Chad's kids. You know, they're a little bit older, so They're on the scene. They have very few scenes, but they are on the scene when you would expect them to be. Like their dad coming home late one night, or just something. You hear, EJ and Nicole were talking about Holly. Oh, she's upstairs in her room doing this or that. We never see Holly walking through, or them taking her to school, or they barely mention her for people who treasure their children so much. But there's a lot of rules with having kids on set. Ugh. I recently learned a lot of things I could have done without knowing. But they're only allowed so much airtime, particularly babies. Oh my goodness, it's really stacked up on the rules if you've got like babies on the set. Anyway, we're all worrying and thinking, Nicole's probably got Eric's baby, and this is gonna break EJ's heart. So, I don't know. Anyway, Eric's up there with her. She's so aggravated because, EJ's not there, but EJ is there. He is just tied up in the basement. There's hair, little stringy hairs everywhere. So I have said this before, and I do not know what is wrong with the Dimitri family. When someone goes missing, and it doesn't even have to be someone in their family, there's one or two places they're going to be, and that's either in the Dimitri cellar, the basement, or in the Dimitri crypt with all the other creepers. So, I don't know why they don't look in these places when, Kristen's been gone for a week, her and EJ. Let's look in the crypt. Maybe somebody's got tied up out there, because you can't sit there and say, well, that's unlikely. Everything's likely in Salem. Okay, so, she shares a kiss with Eric, and then, he's like, oh, Nicole, we can't do this. I'm with Sloan. You're with EJ. And, she said, I'm sorry. I just felt that pull, And then they're sitting down on the couch talking, and out stumbles Kristen and EJ from the little secret door in the living room, or whatever kind of room that is. The room with No-No's picture up there. And Nicole is just shocked to see him and find out that, he's been down in the basement the whole time tied up, him and Kristen. So they're babbling and saying they don't know, they can't remember. They're pretty certain she gave them something for their memory. Nicole's a little worried about EJ and would like him to be checked out by the doctor. But anyway, him and Nicole are standing there, and he's like, oh, did you make it to the doctor? What did the doctor say? They hadn't seen each other in days. And they're just holding each other's faces and being all affectionate and stuff. And here's Eric, who I'm gonna start calling him the creeper, because he's just standing there watching them be affectionate with each other, and this is killing him. But yet in his mind, I guess he's trying to accept it because they're not together anymore. And they're not together because he chose not to be with her. He dumped her. So yeah, she went on with her life, dude, just like you did. And you see Eric making these faces. And I'm thinking, look at you just standing there. This is like a private moment for them. Why don't you pack your tail in your back pocket and get the hell out of there? But no, there he is, the creeper. Listening to them tell each other they love each other and stuff. I mean, he's always crawled right up in their business, and I'm a little bit fed up with him. He needs to get back and take care of his woman, Sloan, who's having her own issues. She's dealing with the guilt that she's not Nicole's baby daddy. I say that as a joke just because, she swabbed herself instead of Eric. That's why I say she's not the baby daddy. She came back negative. So anyway, that happens. But EJ seems undeterred at all the fact that Eric was there. But later, after he has a shower and stuff, he does talk to Nicole about it. He was saying, why was he here? And, she was telling him he came over for a very good reason, and we'll talk about that later. But while he was here, I started having cramps, and he took me to the hospital. So, he was very concerned at what was going on, and actually glad that Eric had been there to help her, and she said he was just staying with me because you weren't here. And he's just looking at her. He's like, okay, so I'm missing, and you think I don't care about you or my child, and turn to Eric for comfort. And she's like, no, EJ, it's not like that. It is like that, Doesn't take much for Nicole to melt into Eric's arms. Now, they can sit there and say, we're just friends. Don't none of us buy that. And it's none of us going there. We know better than that. They've got too much of a long history together. I don't know why they don't just tell Sloane and EJ, well, now there's a baby involved. If they had already found out that baby was Eric's, I'm thinking their situations would have changed and Eric would have wanted to be with Nicole. That is Sloane's worst fear. It's my worst fear, too. I want him to move on with his life. I hope this baby is not his. And it'd be just like Days, the way they make you think something's happening, and then they switch it at the end. It's those tricky trickster writers. So, that is what is happening on Monday with Nicole and EJ. So, let's see. What else is going on? Okay, so, Rafe runs into Lee. He's on his way to Gabby and Stefan's engagement party, and he runs into Lee outside the restaurant, lurking. And he was lurking. And what does he say out loud? Oh, wonder if he's dead yet. He'll be dead soon. So they're talking about Stefan being dead. And Gabby will be mine. And, and Rafe walks up behind him, of course, because the stupidest move that any of these writers ever make is writing people talking to themselves out loud in the square, in their house somewhere, where they know other people are there and will overhear them. I don't go around doing that shit. Oh, I think I ran over a kitten today. I hope nobody in the house heard that. Come on, man. This is some dumb stuff. I'm sick of it. Stop writing that. It's just dumb. In real life, people don't do that. Now, it's your all's jobs to make us think that Salem is real and these people live these lives. So, don't be pulling a bunch of dumb stuff. We got enough stuff to deal with. So, anyway, Rafe and Lee have words, and Rafe's like, well, you wasn't going to go up there and cause a problem, were you? And Lee's like, no. And he's like, well, you seem pretty nervous, and then Lee admits to him, well, it's just, I'm not going to deny it. Hurts me so much that I know what's going on up there. And he's like, look, I understand. You've caused Gabby enough trouble. You just need to stay away from her. And he's like, well, I promise you, I'm going to go straight home now, Rafe. And Rafe just looked and walked off to go upstairs to the restaurant. Well, what's going on up there? Well, Harris has already whipped out his gun, and he's already told them that he's there to kill Stefan, because Gabby thought EJ hired him to kill him, and he said, nope, not EJ. I'm here to fulfill orders. They want you dead. The man that wants you dead is Lee Shin. And everybody's like, and Wendy's over there, what? That's not true. Man, I hope they get her off the show soon. I don't like her and the little game she plays with our boy Johnny and Tripp. What I wish is her and Tripp would get together and move to Seattle. That's what I wish. And don't come back. Don't care for Tripp, and I don't care for her. They're characters. They've never impressed me. At least Wendy looks fairly attractive now. They put a little makeup on her, dressed her like a girl, fixed her hair where it didn't string everywhere. She's looking pretty good. So, but I feel like she's making these boys beg for her attention, and she's playing these little silly games. And I think she's just not big enough to be in Salem. She's not a grown up. So, I hope her and Tripp get together and move out of Salem. But she's there with Johnny, of course, and she is freaking out because she can't believe that her brother would have done something like this. She's trying to tell Gabby and Stefan he was okay with he gave you the divorce. I'm so thirsty. Nothing like a watered down Coke. So they're not believing her, of course. And just like Johnny reminded Wendy, he said, when we were on our way to this party, he just stopped you earlier today when you said you were going to this party, and he told you no, he didn't want you to go. And she said, yeah, but that was just out of loyalty for him. And he's like, or he didn't want you to get caught in the crossfire. You're right, Mr. Johnny. That's exactly what it was. He didn't want her to get hurt. She is his sister. He does have some normal feelings, I think, for his sister. And he's another one, man. When they gonna get rid of him? I thought this time he's gonna get arrested and stuff. And he did. So Rafe comes in, gets Harris under control, and Chad's over, and he keeps saying, I've got a mission to accomplish, because he's been programmed. So, Chad goes over because he already called Harris out and said, this isn't you. You've been brainwashed again. So he's over there telling Rafe, that they've brainwashed him again. And he's like, okay, just keep him under control here. So he was tied up or cuffed up or whatever they did to him. And Rafe told Chad and Stephanie to keep an eye on him till the police car, till the police can get there and, lock him up. So everyone's spreading out. They're all mad as all get out. Meanwhile, Lee is back home and he's having this fantasy. He's flipping out. He's having this fantasy that Gabby comes to the door. And he's like, Gabby, what are you doing here? You're supposed to be at your engagement party. And she said, I was. But Harris came and shot Stefan. And he's like, oh my God, he didn't hurt you, did he? She's like, no. She said, I was thinking he did me a favor. And he's like, what? And then she starts kissing him in his fantasy. And he's like, don't you need to mourn? And she said, I can mourn Stefan tomorrow. But tonight, I just want you to ravish me. And she starts kissing him, and I started cracking up because nobody says ravish. And it's just hilarious because she doesn't want him touching her. And then he snaps out of it. And he's like, come on, Megan, call me. What's going on? Of course, he don't know. And if you didn't watch my Monday video, then you don't know that Megan got shot. And what happened was when Rafe come in and he yelled at him, he swung around. Gabby ends up jumping on top of Harris and wrestling with him. And the only thing you see is really Gabby's beautiful pink shoes flying through the air. They were the prettiest shoes I have ever saw. Well, at least the color. And she had a little matching clutch. Now, I'm not one of them people that have 2 rooms full of shoes. I have very few shoes, and I don't wear heels, never have. I'm 5'10", and I was born 5'10", so I have been taller than the boys my whole life, so you can bet high heels have never been on my feet. I've wore some clogs things back in the 70s. Don't wear heels. And now with my back problems, I definitely wouldn't. But just the color of them, they were so pretty. And she looked great flying around on his back. And anyway, when he's wrestling with her, the gun goes off and it shoots Megan. Now, Harris didn't even shoot her on purpose. He was trying to get Gabby off his back. So then when Gabby sees that Megan's shot, she goes back over to Harris and kind of knees him and does something that pretty much looks fake. But, you're so into the scene, you just let it slide. And he drops the gun, and then she gets the gun and gives it to Stefan. So then Harris gets tied up. Now, back at the ranch, Lee is waiting very impatiently to hear from Megan. Yes, Stefan's dead. Plan accomplished. Let's rock and roll. So then he hears a knock at the door, and this is in real life. And he goes to the door, and it's Gabby, just like in his fantasy. And he's like, Gabby, what are you doing here? Why aren't you at your engagement party? Or aren't you supposed to be at your engagement party? And she said, I was. Until Harris showed up with a gun. And he's like, oh my God, are you all right? And she said, yeah. And she said, why did he bring a gun? And she said, to shoot Stefan. And he said, like, oh, God, Abby, I'm so sorry. Poor Stefan. And then in walks Stefan. This was a great scene. In walks Stefan and says, well, don't bury me yet, Lee. And Lee turns around, and, of course, he's pissed, but he says, oh, thank God, you're okay. And he said, cut the act, Lee. We know everything. And he's just looking at him. And then in walks Rafe, right behind Stefan, and says, Lee Shin, you are under arrest for the attempted murder of Stefan Demara. So he cuffs him up, takes his butt out to jail. Of course, as the week goes on, he is busy saying, he had nothing to do with it. So what we know is we saw in Friday's episode when Lee was talking to Rolf, and Lee said, I don't understand what Megan's thinking, because won't they just automatically think she's the one that did this, that killed Stefan? And he said, I've taken care of that. And how he took care of it is he programmed Harris to say that Lee Shin was the mastermind. He was the one that put it all together, and Megan had nothing to do with it. Why? Because Rolf is indebted to the Damaras, but not, well, some of them more than others. He definitely is on Megan's side because she is a lot like Stefano. So, he already protected her, on Friday, because she was having a fit. She wanted Stefan out of the way because she thinks Stefan's going to give his shares to Gabby, and she's going to try to run the company, and she does not think that Gabby should run the Demara company. And she said, Demara should belong to me, or be all mine. And Rolf said, and it will be. It will be. Oh, I just love that Rolf so much. He's just always just an evil little scientist. Okay, so then oh man, how long did that take me? 22 minutes, oh my God, on Monday. Monday was explosive. It was just about the best one on me. Then we move on to Tuesday, and I have about nothing for Tuesday because Tuesday was so boring I could barely stay awake to watch it. Of course, we don't get to see Megan and all that. They want to take us down. So what we do get to see is they have pronounced Abraham dead. So, didn't they already have his funeral for him? I think he did. Isn't that what Leo spoke at? No, that was Juneteenth. But John, Roman, Patch, everybody is mourning Abraham. And the boys, John is having a dream about him. Had a dream about him on the pier. And it's just driving him crazy because he feels like he missed something. He feels like Abraham's not dead. And, Patch and John, they get together and they're all kind of feeling like, they didn't have a body. They're putting all these clues together and they're thinking, maybe he's not dead, no matter what all this evidence says. Marlena helps him, She tries to comfort him the best she can. Kayla and Patch are missing Abe as well and talking about him. And, Patch is portraying to Kayla how he thinks, this just don't add up. And then Theo stops over and they feed Theo and spend time with Theo. And that's basically about what Tuesday was. Everybody mourning Abraham. And that's what was going on. Then we go to Wednesday, July the 5th. Chanel bumps into Talia in the square, and Talia's doing her community service, picking up trash, and her and Chanel talk. And, Chanel knows that she was under the abuse finger of Colin and all this, and they talked a little bit. I do see Chanel forgiving Talia. I think that's coming around the bend, and then they may be a couple. Who knows? Now, Abe is just getting bent out of shape. Abe is watching whatever that show is. That soap opera she's letting him watch. And who does he see on the soap opera? Fake Theo playing a part. And he's like, Theo? My son's an actor? He's not an actor. So he's getting really angry, starting to put together that fake Theo is not real Theo, and Paulina's been lying to him. Fake Paulina, of course. So, Eli and Lonnie, because Lonnie was granted a furlough so she could come home for her dad's funeral. But she insists on going down to the station and looking at the evidence. And Rafe says it's okay with him. He just don't want to see it, but he ain't going to say nothing if he heard something about her looking at the evidence. And there's, her and her husband are thinking, the same thing about Abe. She's overlooking his file. She's looking at that boy and sees on his record that he is a soap opera actor, or had been on that show. So they want to talk to him. They've got a picture of him in Abe's file because he's the one that said he saw him go into the water. So I think Lonnie said she wanted to talk to him. Maybe she didn't, but I think that's what she said. Meanwhile, and I'm not sure why she did this, but Whitley goes over and visits Paulina. And Paulina is shocked to see her at her door. And she's like, "What are you doing here?" And she said, "Well, I know I didn't know your husband very well, but I did just want to come by and offer my condolences and make sure you're doing okay." So she sat down and talks with Paulina for a few minutes, and you can tell that Paulina's a little apprehensive about things that she's saying, and she's just watching her. And Paulina might be onto something, but I tell you what, this woman going over and visiting Paulina, she shouldn't have done that. That's putting like a target on her back. Probably somebody, Eli or Lonnie or both of them, are probably going to come and visit her now, and that's where the Abester is. So, fireworks. Oh yeah. It's also Lonnie and Eli's anniversary, and they watch fireworks in the square. Whitley ends up drugging Abe because he confronts her, and I forget what she tells him. And he tells her he's wanting to get out of the house. He is in the wheelchair trying to get out the door when she comes home and says, "Where are you going?" And he said, "You're lying to me. I'm going to get out of here." And she said, "No, Abraham, I can't let you do that." He said, "If you don't, I'm going to call the police." So he turned his wheelchair around and he headed back to the toward the phone. She comes up behind him and shoots him in the neck with something. The people in Salem are always wheeling needles and stuff. That makes me nervous. I mean, I was trained in my profession how to give people injections and draw blood and all that. And I do not take kindly to people who weren't in the medical field at all wheeling and dealing all these needles that they seem to have in their pocket with all kinds of sedatives and things. What's going on in Salem? They need to crack down on some regulations. So she shoots him in the neck with something, and it kind of paralyzes him. Whitley talked to Paulina for a long while, and I don't know what the purpose of her visit was. I really don't, unless it was just to find out information. Now we see, and this was heartbreaking, at the end of Wednesday's show, it shows Abe in the wheelchair watching the soap opera, and she's sitting in a chair watching it with him, and she's talking to him about it, and he's sitting there just watching it, and tears are coming down his face. Oh, it upset me so bad. He's so trapped and scared, and he knows something's not right, and it just broke my heart. It was just the very saddest ending of any of the shows all week. So then we move on to Thursday. Kate goes into the hospital and visits Harris, and she's going all off on him and everything, and he don't remember their little deal, their little arrangement, and she's just biting his damn head off, and he's like, I need to get out of here if you want to help me, because my assignment is to kill Stefan. I've got to complete my assignment. And she don't understand what's going on yet, but she does get told later. Megan, when she wakes up, she finds that she is, of course she was shot, she is handcuffed to the bed. And she's asking Dimitri, she said, what am I doing handcuffed to the bed? I'm innocent. I didn't do anything wrong. And he said, well, Mother, before you came to, you're handcuffed to the bed, you're arrested because Uncle EJ and Aunt Kristen claim that you kidnapped them and tied them up in the basement. So she is telling him that they're lying, this is not true, and she starts crying and stuff. You've got to believe me. Tell me that you believe me. So he said, okay, yeah, he believes her. She's a little psycho control freak herself, just like her daddy. I love Megan's character. I really, really do. So, Lee spends Thursday trying to talk. He was talking to Stefan and Gabby, trying to convince them that he's not the one that brainwashed Harris. They're not believing him, and they don't believe him until Kristen and EJ tell them that, yeah, it was Megan, which kind of lets Lee off the hook, but it's not like he didn't have any part of it, because he did. He did conspire to kill Stefan. EJ and Kristen go over to Marlena and they ask her for help. And she's all bent out of shape because Kristen hadn't been around and Rachel just went off to camp. And she's like, me and EJ have been held hostage in my basement, blah, blah, blah. You know, she's all telling them, so they tell her what they need. And she does not like Megan either, so she agrees to help them, hypnotize them so they can get their memories back. She does it, and she says, you both did very well, and they got their memories back. So they clearly remember everything that she told them. And now they are going to, Kristen's going to go tell the police, and EJ's going to go rub it in his little witch sister's face. So, they, of course, thanked Marlena for helping them. And she said, now just make sure you use it to put Megan away. EJ and Kate, EJ runs into Kate at the hospital. And she said, what are you doing here? And he said, I'm here to see my sister. And she finds out he's there to wring her neck too. So she's going to go with him. They go in to the hospital room. They both just kind of charge in there. But guess what? Megan is not in there. She's gone. But there is someone in Megan's bed. And who is it? Gabby. Gabby is handcuffed to the bed. So Gabby was in there popping her mouth off to her apparently. And Rolf showed up on the scene, is what Gabby said. And he was able to wrestle her, overpower her, and handcuff her to the bed. So he whisked Megan off and said he mentioned something about a submarine. So, there we go with this. We move on to Friday, which is today, July the 7th. And, of course, today, Gwen accepts Dimitri's proposal, so she is going to marry him. Kristen catches Leo when she comes back from the hospital, going through their drawers, breaking in and stuff, and she told him, I'm going to report you, blah, 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 blah. And he ends up still roughing up EJ. EJ is, no, EJ wasn't there. EJ was with Kate. They found Gabby. I'm getting confused. I'm so sleepy. I didn't get any sleep. And, they're talking to Gabby. They end up calling the police department because they need somebody to uncuff Gabby. And who shows up? The drunk of the town now, Sean Brady. He's been drinking like a little drinkster ever since he shot his dad and put him in a coma. So he shows up and calls Kate and Gabby idiots. Which you two idiots let Megan loose? Didn't either one of them let her loose, you goof. Now I'm looking at him thinking, what's his purpose anymore? They're not going to bring Bo and Hope back for anything. They're done off and done their scenes, and that ticks everyone off. And then here we got his little side one, child that's all crazy because of what happened. He needs to buckle up, stand up, and just take this and deal with it. It's easier said than done. I'm sorry. Anyway, so EJ goes down to the pier because he thinks if Rolf and Megan are leaving by submarine, they're going to be down at the pier. So he goes down there, and of course they've got the makeshift memorial of Abe down there, which is where Nicole is delivering flowers, and there is, what's his name? Eric's down there too. And he's kind of comforting her. And EJ walks up on them. And it looks a little suspicious, but EJ handles it like a champ. And he tells Nicole how he ended up down there. And he doesn't think anything about it. They talk later. She said, he's just your friend and he was comforting you. And that's fine, Nicole. All I care about is you and this baby. I don't care that you're friends with Eric. And she's like, thank you for being that way. So, Sean, on the other hand, he's got that real bad drinking problem. Okay, so Leo, I don't know how Kristen let him loose or whatever, or he just got back in. Leo was up in Dimitri's room looking through his stuff. And he knocks a book on the floor that has some papers in it, and he picks it up, and bingo, was his name, It is about his inheritance and having to be married. So then he realizes why Dimitri is pressuring Gwen to get married. And he can't wait to go tell somebody that. So he gets ready to walk out the room, and in walks Dimitri. And he's like, what are you doing in here? And he's like, checking up on you. And he said, and I've got what I need now to tell Gwenny. And he's lifting up that inheritance paper. And he comes over and grabs Leo, and it looks to me like, that sun is coming in these windows bright. It looks to me like he's getting ready to hurt him. And instead, Dimitri grabs Leo and starts kissing him. Leo's just had his eyes open and stuff, and I was shocked. I don't know what his plan is. I don't know if he's got it in him to kill him, but what he's gonna do them both. I don't know what all that is. But that is the end of Friday, July the 7th today. It was a good, productive week in Salem. We got a lot done. So we see Megan take off. Is Megan gone for now? We won't see her for a few more years. She's probably going into hiding for sure. She certainly doesn't want to go back to jail. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you like it, hit the like button. If you haven't subscribed, subscribe. I see the subscriptions are slowly going up. And I'm just waiting to hit that magic number, and I'll be giving away a Roku every so often. You know, the ones that you on your TV, because a lot of my viewers don't get to see Days of Our Lives anymore because, you know, they're charging for it now. After 50 years or whatever it was, you could watch it for free. Now, if you want to watch it, you have to pay for it. It's only $5. It's not that much, but being you can't even buy a pound of hamburger for that anymore, it is a bit of a problem for a lot of people. So, that's what's popping in Salem. I hope you liked it. I sure enjoyed the week. I loved everything that went on Friday and Monday with the whole shooting up there in the bistro. And I don't know. It'll be there's just some weird things going on. Oh, now I'm going to make a separate video about that. Okay, so I'll see you peeps next week, and I will see you in Salem. I'm going to go over there right now and see if anybody's hanging out. All right, goodbye. I hope everybody have a safe weekend. Don't drink and drive. And if you're feeling depressed, call a hotline. If you just hang in there for another day, the Bible says joy comes in the morning. And I always say, if you can make it to the next morning, things will be at least a little bit better. Okay? Love you guys. Have a great weekend.